Evan Parker had never expected a simple autumn evening in Portland to twist his life into something this complicated. He stood outside the small cafe on Maple Street, staring through the glass window as warm lights flickered across the wooden tables. His heart beat too fast for something as ordinary as a meeting. But nothing about tonight was ordinary. Inside were two women who, without meaning to, had changed everything for him. He took a slow breath, trying to steady the thoughts running through his mind. The wind carried the cool scent of rain, brushing past his jacket and reminding him how long he had been standing there. He wasn't nervous often, but tonight he wasn't even sure who he was walking inside for, or why both of them happened to be here at the same time asking to talk. He didn't know if fate had a sense of humor or if life simply liked to test people at the worst possible moments. 3 weeks earlier, nothing had been complicated. Nothing had been dramatic. Evan was just a 34-year-old designer living a quiet, predictable routine work in the morning, freelancing at night, occasional visits to friends, and long hours alone with his sketchbooks. Life wasn't sad, but it wasn't exciting either. He had accepted that some people lived quiet lives, and he was one of them. And then he met Lena Brooks. It happened at a downtown coffee shop on a rainy morning. He had been distracted, holding too many things at once, and bumped right into her. She gasped. His sketchbook hit the floor, and her tea nearly spilled all over him. But instead of frustration, she let out a soft, warm laugh that surprised both of them. She apologized, even though it was his fault. And somehow the two ended up talking for 15 minutes without realizing time had passed. Lena had this gentle presence that made conversation feel effortless. She was a school teacher with soft eyes and a calm smile, the kind of person who listened with real attention. Every time she spoke, Evan felt himself relax without trying. They didn't exchange numbers that day, but they kept running into each other. Same cafe, same neighborhood. Same slow mornings that felt a little warmer when she was around soon. They were sharing small talk that turned into personal stories. He learned she loved children's books and kept a collection of classic novels. She learned he had a habit of doodling on napkins when he was stressed. Their connection grew quietly, naturally. And in a way, Evan didn't even notice until one day she wasn't there, and he felt oddly disappointed. But fate wasn't done surprising him, because 2 weeks after meeting Lena, he met Mia Rivera, someone who walked into his life with the exact opposite energy. Mia was a photographer, bold and confident, with a voice full of humor and eyes that sparkled like she carried entire stories inside them. They met during a project he was assigned to design for a local art event. She was hired as the main photographer, and from the moment she introduced herself with a cheerful, "You must be the sketch guy," he knew she wasn't someone easy to forget. Where Lena spoke softly, Mia spoke like every word was part of a dance. Where Lena's presence was calming, Mia's was electrifying. She challenged his ideas, teased him about being too structured, and made him laugh more freely than he had in years. She didn't try to impress him, she just existed loudly, honestly. And he found himself drawn to her without meaning to be. He began looking forward to their project meetings more than he should. She would show him new photos, he would show her new sketches, and somehow ours disappeared whenever they worked together. She made him feel alive, reminded him of the parts of himself he had forgotten, spontaneous, adventurous, daring, and for a man used to quiet routines. Mia felt like the spark he didn't know he needed, but Lena was still in his life too soft. Steady, thoughtful Lena, the person who made him feel grounded, understood, and calm. He didn't want to lose that warmth. He didn't want to lose the spark either. He wasn't playing with anyone's feelings. And he wasn't intentionally leading anyone on. He simply never expected to meet two people who touched different parts of his heart at nearly the same time. But feelings don't wait for permission. And he had been caught between them before he realized he needed to make a choice tonight. That choice might finally corner him. He pushed open the cafe door, stepping inside as warm air wrapped around him. The gentle smell of cinnamon and roasted coffee filled the room. His eyes went straight to the left, where Lena was sitting by the window with a cup of tea. She wore a soft blue sweater, her hair pulled into a loose ponytail, and she looked up at him with a tender smile that made guilt twist inside him. But before he could take a step toward her, he heard a familiar voice from the right. "Hey, Evan, over here." Mia sat in the corner booth, waving with her bright smile, the smile that had lifted his mood more times than he could count these past weeks. She looked excited, hopeful, and completely unaware that Lena was also here. His stomach dropped. This shouldn't have happened. They weren't supposed to be here at the same time. They didn't know about each other. They didn't know about the pull each of them had on him. Lena looked at Mia. Mia looked at Lena, and both looked back at Evan. In that single moment, everything he had been avoiding came crashing into focus. There was no explaining his way out of this without hurting someone. No simple conversation. No quiet exit. He forced a smile, but it felt weak. His legs felt heavy as he walked toward Lena first, because she had spotted him earlier. She greeted him with a warm, uncertain expression, and he could tell by her eyes that she already sensed something wasn't right. Before he could sit, Mia stood from her booth and walked toward them. "Wow," she said lightly. "I guess we all had the same idea today." Her attempt at humor didn't hide her confusion. Lena straightened her shoulders politely, trying to understand what was happening without jumping to conclusions. The air thickened with tension, and conversations around the cafe seemed to fade. Evan wished he could freeze time, reorganize everything, explain it all calmly. But life rarely gives people that kind of mercy. He felt stuck between two people who had done nothing wrong, two people who deserved honesty, clarity, and care. His mind raced through memories. Lena smiling gently at him over morning tea. Mia laughing as she showed him her favorite photos. Lena understanding his quiet moments. Mia pulling him into spontaneous ones. Both women leaving their own mark on him. Both women offering a different kind of connection. Both women waiting for an explanation he didn't know how to give. What he felt for each of them was different, but real, and now he had to face what he had been avoiding. The room felt too quiet. Mia and Lena stood near each other, both confused, both waiting for him to say something that made sense. But he had no perfect explanation. Only the truth, a messy truth that neither of them deserved to hear this way. He finally sat at Lena's table, 'cause it seemed like the least hurtful choice in the moment. Mia hesitated before returning to her booth. Her smile faded just enough to reveal the worry in her eyes. Lena looked down at her tea, trying to steady her breath. Evan felt the weight of two hearts pressing against him. And for the first time in a long time, he wasn't sure if he was the one who had brought light into their lives, or the one who had brought unexpected pain. He wanted peace. He wanted passion. He wanted stability. He wanted excitement. He wanted things a person couldn't have at the same time. Not without hurting someone. The cafe clock ticked softly above him. Rain tapped lightly against the windows. He watched Mia glance over her shoulder, as if she hoped he would say something to explain all of this. He watched Lena fold her hands like she was preparing herself for a difficult truth. He knew that whatever came next, his life would not be the same. He had walked in expecting a simple conversation. Instead, he walked into a moment that would change everything. And deep down, he knew the night wasn't over yet. Not even close. The cafe felt heavier now, the warmth of the lights unable to chase away the tension Evan carried in his chest. Rain drummed softly against the windows as if the world outside was mirroring his confusion. He had chosen to sit with Lena first, but the weight of Mia's presence in the room made him feel like he had already failed. He could hear the faint clink of her cup as she set it down on the table across from him. Neither spoke immediately. Words felt too risky, too heavy. He just watched Lena's face, the quiet, steady expression she always wore, in Mia's the bright, open smile that now seemed laced with concern. Evan tried to focus on Lena first. She looked up at him, her eyes calm yet searching, holding a question he wasn't sure he could answer. "I'm glad you came," she said softly, her voice barely above the hum of the cafe. I wanted to see you, to talk. I think I've been feeling something for you, something more than just friendship." hands trembled slightly as she folded them in front of her. There was no demand, no rush, just honesty. It made Evan's chest tighten in a way he couldn't ignore. He opened his mouth to reply, but the words caught in his throat. How could he speak without hurting someone? How could he express the truth without leaving someone feeling left out? Lena's honesty was disarming. It made him realize how much he cared for her calm presence, her gentle laughter, and the quiet way she made him feel safe in a world that often moved too fast. But then there was Mia. She approached slowly, her steps deliberate but light, and stopped at the edge of their table. "Evan," she said, her voice steady but softer than usual. "I didn't mean to interrupt. I wanted to be honest too." Her eyes met his, filled with a vulnerability he hadn't expected from someone so bold. "I feel something for you, something I can't ignore. I thought maybe tonight I should tell you instead of letting it pass." Evan's heart skipped. There it was again, the spark, the fire, the energy Mia brought into his life. He looked at Lena, who smiled softly as if silently telling him that it was okay. She had no anger, no jealousy, only a quiet understanding that sometimes life was messy, and hearts didn't always follow simple rules. Mia took a breath, glancing briefly at Lena before looking back at Evan. "I don't want to complicate things, and I'm not here to make anyone feel bad. I just wanted you to know what I feel. You can think about it. You can decide later." Stid stepped back, giving space but leaving the words in the air like a small, fragile flame. Evan felt a wave of emotion he couldn't ignore. Lena was calm and steady, the person who made him feel grounded and loved in a quiet, nurturing way. Mia was alive and vivid, the person who made him feel free, adventurous, and passionate. And suddenly he realized the depth of what he was feeling for both of them, two very different women, both of whom had captured pieces of his heart he hadn't known were empty. The cafe seemed to fade around him. The chatter of other patrons, the clinking of cups, the soft jazz playing in the background all disappeared. All he could focus on were the two women standing in front of him, their honesty laid bare. Neither deserved to be second. Neither deserved to be confused with half-hearted attention. Both deserved his full heart. And yet he could not give both everything. Lena's voice broke the silence. "Evan," she said gently, "I don't expect you to answer now. You don't have to decide today. But I want you to promise me this. Be honest with yourself. Don't choose out of fear. Don't choose because it's easier." Her eyes softened, holding warmth and care. "I care about you, and I just want you to be happy even if that happiness isn't with me." Evan swallowed, the words making him feel both grateful and guilty. He had never encountered someone who could express love and understanding at the same time without demanding anything in return. Lena's presence was like a quiet anchor, keeping him tethered to calmness, reminding him of the beauty of simple, enduring affection. Mia stepped closer again, her hands clasped loosely in front of her. "And I feel the same way," she said, her voice steady despite the tension in her eyes. "You don't owe me anything, but I wanted you to know. Life is too short for hiding feelings, and I can't pretend I don't feel what I feel for you." Her gaze softened, and for a moment, Evan felt like the world had shrunk down to the three of them in that small cafe the rain outside picked up, tapping against the window with a rhythmic, soothing sound. Evan closed his eyes briefly, trying to calm the storm of emotion inside him. He thought about the mornings he had spent with Lena, the quiet talks, the small laughter, the way she always understood him without asking for explanations. He thought about the afternoons with Mia, the adventures, the bursts of joy, the way she made him feel alive, awake, and inspired to take risks he never thought he could. He opened his eyes, seeing both of them at once. Two women, each offering a different type of love, each waiting for him to respond. He wanted to tell them both everything, to explain that neither was a mistake, that neither had hurt him, they had only shown him what it meant to feel. But he also knew life wasn't about giving both hearts at once. Love required honesty, courage, and sometimes sacrifice. Lena leaned back slightly, giving him space while her gaze remained gentle. "Evan," she whispered, You don't have to rush. Take your time. But promise me you won't ignore what your heart truly wants." Her voice carried both hope and sadness, a mixture that made him ache. Mia nodded as well, a small, understanding smile on her face. "We're not asking for immediate answers," she said softly. "We're just asking for honesty. You don't have to choose tonight. You just have to be true to yourself when the time comes." Evan took a deep breath. His chest felt tight, as if it carried the weight of two worlds. He knew the moment required courage to admit that he cared for both of them. And courage to accept that the choice he made would inevitably hurt someone. It was the first time in a long time that he felt truly alive, but alive in a way that demanded responsibility. The cafe remained quiet, save for the rain and the soft background music. Evan watched Lena stir her tea gently, thoughtful and composed. While Mia traced the edge of her cup, her usual vibrant energy softened by vulnerability. He realized then that love wasn't just about passion or comfort. It was about honesty, understanding, and connection. And both women had shown him love in a way that was different, yet equally profound. Evan's mind raced. How could one man feel so completely pulled in two directions? How could he care so deeply for two people at once without betraying either? The truth was simple and complicated at the same time. One wasn't enough. Each filled a part of him, the other could not. Lena filled his need for stability, understanding, and deep emotional connection. Mia filled his need for excitement, spontaneity, and inspiration. Both made him feel whole in ways he hadn't known he was missing. He realized something else. The moment had become bigger than the cafe. Bigger than the rain outside. Bigger than the fear of making a mistake. It was a turning point. One choice would shape the next chapter of his life. One choice would bring happiness to one heart and pain to another. He had to be careful, thoughtful, and true not just to them, but to himself. Lena stood slowly, her movements graceful and deliberate. "I think I understand," she said quietly. "You can't answer tonight, and that's okay. Just promise me you'll think carefully. Don't choose because of guilt. Don't choose because it seems easier. Choose because it feels right for you." Mia also stood, giving him a soft smile. "And I'll respect your space, Evan. Take your time. I want you to choose with a clear heart, not a rushed one." The two women walked toward the door separately, leaving Evan seated at the table, watching them. His heart ached, torn between two lives, two futures, and two loves. He realized then that sometimes love was not about possession, control, or certainty. It was about clarity, honesty, and courage. Evan stayed seated, the weight of the moment pressing down on him, the rain continuing its steady rhythm against the window. The cafe felt quiet, serene, and solemn, like the universe had paused to give him a moment to reflect. He understood that tomorrow would bring decisions, confessions, and perhaps heartbreak. But tonight was for understanding. Tonight was for feeling. Tonight was for accepting that his heart had grown in ways he hadn't expected. Finally, he whispered to himself, the words barely audible. "One wasn't enough. Because each of them gave me something the other couldn't. But I have to choose before it's too late." Outside, the rain fell harder, washing the streets with silver light. Inside, Evan sat alone, thinking, feeling, and preparing for a tomorrow that would require courage, honesty, and perhaps the kind of love that could never be taken lightly. The night had shifted everything, and he knew life would never be the same again. But deep down, he also knew one truth. Love, when genuine, was never simple, but it was always worth the risk. The cafe door closed behind Lena and Mia, leaving Evan alone to process his heart, his emotions, and the difficult choice that lay ahead. He remained seated, letting the quiet sink in, letting the rain mirror the storm inside him. And for the first time in a long while, he felt alive, fully aware that the next step would define the course of his life, and, perhaps, the lives of the two women who had already changed him forever.